Title asterisk, Titanic's dark secret, hook, midnight to 0:30. Imagine being on the most luxurious ship in the world, surrounded by wealthy passengers and crew, when suddenly, disaster strikes. It's April 14, 1912, and the Titanic is sinking. But what if I told you that the real reason it sank had nothing to do with the iceberg? In fact, a shocking investigation would later reveal that the ship's catastrophic fate was sealed months before it even set sail. Section 1, The Struggle, 0:30 to 3 o'clock. You've probably heard the story of the Titanic's tragic fate, but have you ever stopped to think about what really caused it? Was it just a freak accident, or was there something more sinister at play? You're not alone in wondering about this. For years, people have been fascinated by the Titanic story, and yet, the truth behind its sinking remains shrouded in mystery. But what if you knew that the Titanic's demise was not just a maritime disaster, but a symptom of a much larger problem? A problem that affects us all, and one that we can learn from to this day. Pattern interrupt, let's take a closer look at the ship's construction and see if we can uncover some clues. As we dive deeper, you'll start to notice that the Titanic's builders, the Harland and Wolff shipyard in Belfast, were under immense pressure to deliver the ship on time. The White Star Line, the company that owned the Titanic, had invested a fortune in its construction, and any delays would have been catastrophic. You can imagine the tension and stress that the workers must have felt, working around the clock to meet the deadline. But was this pressure to perform the root cause of the disaster? The answer is more complicated than you think, and it's not just about the ship itself, but about the people who built it, and the society they lived in. And that's where our story takes a dramatic turn. Section 2, The Turning Point, 3 to 6 o'clock, on September 20, 1911, just 7 months before the Titanic's maiden voyage, a fire broke out at the Harland and Wolff shipyard. The fire damaged several ships, including the Titanic's sister ship, the Olympic. But what's remarkable is that the Titanic itself was not damaged, and yet, the fire would have a profound impact on its fate. The investigation into the fire revealed that the shipyard had been using substandard materials and taking shortcuts to meet the deadline. This was a major red flag, and yet, it was ignored by the authorities. Pattern interrupt, now, you might be thinking, what does this have to do with the Titanic sinking? Well, it turns out that the Titanic's builders had made a fatal mistake, one that would put the lives of over 2,000 people at risk. As we explore this further, you'll discover that the Titanic's builders had been warned about the dangers of using substandard materials, but they chose to ignore these warnings. And it's not just the builders who were to blame, the entire maritime industry was guilty of prioritizing profits over safety. The consequences of this mentality would be devastating, and the Titanic's sinking would be just the beginning. But what's even more shocking is that the authorities knew about these dangers and did nothing to stop them. And that's where our story takes a darker turn. Section 3, The Method, 6 to 9 o'clock. So, what can we learn from the Titanic's tragic fate? Here are 3 key takeaways. 1. Cutting corners always costs more in the long run. The Titanic's builders thought they could save time and money by using substandard materials, but in the end, it cost them everything. 2. Safety should always be the top priority. The maritime industry's prioritization of profits over safety led to one of the deadliest disasters in history. 3. Whistleblowers and warnings should never be ignored. If the authorities had listened to the warnings about the Titanic's construction, the disaster might have been prevented. Pattern interrupt, but here's the thing, the Titanic story is not just a historical footnote, it's a warning for our own times. We can apply these lessons to our own lives, to our own businesses, and to our own relationships. By prioritizing safety, integrity, and honesty, we can build a better future for ourselves and for those around us. And that's the real legacy of the Titanic, UTRO, 9 to 10 o'clock, so, there you have it, the real reason the Titanic sank had nothing to do with the iceberg. It was a combination of human error, greed, and